Welcome to Friendeavor, the podcast, the weekly podcast where we explore the highs and lows of friendship with your hosts, Danielle and Kayla.
As we journey through life, our friendships often evolve and change, ebb and flow, and sometimes even come to an end. Danielle and I are lifelong advocates for the power of friendship, and we are here to guide all of us through the many challenges and joys that come with building and maintaining strong, meaningful connections with those around us.
Join us each week as we deep dive into the intricacies of friendship, from navigating conflicts to fostering new relationships and everything in between. With insightful interviews, personal anecdotes, and expert advice, Friendeavor is the perfect podcast for anyone looking to strengthen their bonds with the people they love.
So, whether you are on the go, taking care of chores, or just settling in, get ready to explore the world of friendship on Friendeavor, the podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Friendeavor.
Season 2!
Woo! I'm your host, Danielle.
And I'm Kayla.
And we are absolutely thrilled to be back recording for you guys Season 2. The summer went by quickly, but it was so fun.
It was. It
Kayla,
was so
what
fun.
did you do this summer?
Woo! I took a couple trips. I went camping. Oh man. I did a work trip as well, so that was fun. Spent a lot of time with family. Spent a lot of time outside, so that was nice. Even though it's been like terrible in the triple digits.
Why has the weather been outrageous this year?
It's been so bad, but we have a pool at our apartment, so that's nice.
You know, my parents threatened to put in a pool in our backyard.
Threatened.
2019, something like that. And they did not.
Oh.
And so during these triple digis, I have been dying. I got 1, 2, 3 fans in my room.
We need to revisit that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be awesome? Yeah, summer was awesome. I think I told everyone I originally had a trip to Brazil planned where, on behalf of Friendeavor, I was going to speak to the Brazilian youth, which got canceled. But I shall not dwell on it. Anyway, so that redirected my summer. I ended up going to Disneyland with my dad.
Yes.
Which was awesome. Took a weekend trip to Monterey when it was 185 degrees. Took another one up to Oregon. Checked off another state. Then went to Peak. Hung out with you there quite a bit.
Yes. Peak was
how
fun.
did the quizzers do? How did the juniors do?
Amazing. They got second place in the nation.
Woo.
Yeah. They were so close to first. It came down to the last question. And
then after Peak, I checked off 2 more states on my quest. Oh, I don't know if I've ever told them about my quests. Or all of our quests, I should say. But mine has really, I've kicked it up into gear. We and the Anderson family are all on the trek to 50 states. All 50 states. And so I am now up to 41 with a plan to get them all, not by the time I turn 30, but within my 30th year of life. So I got
my word.
a year and a half to get 9 states. And I have a plan, a loose plan, to do it, but that's my goal. That's my current goal.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
And that's the most out of all 3 siblings, right? You have the most.
I think Brett might have 42.
Really?
I don't know. I should check with him. Because, well, he doesn't have the Yellowstone ones that you hit. But I just got 2 that he already had. So, I don't know.
Okay.
I should check. Anyways, it's been an amazing summer, and we're just so delighted that you have come back to hang out with us. And to kick off Season 2, Episode 1 of Season 2, we were talking about the topic of the unlikely friendship. Now, that might seem weird. Even when I brought it up to Kayla and I was like, hey, what about this topic? She's like, tell me about that. So,
yeah,
I don't blame you.
I should know this, but I don't.
No. I don't blame you, listener, or you, Kayla, for not knowing what that means. But hopefully by the end of this episode, you will have an understanding of what it means. So, basically what I'm saying is that you can find friendships when you're not expecting them.
Yeah.
They're unlikely. They're in a place where you're like, I was not going prepared to make friends. I wasn't even trying to make friends. But you know what? Yeah. I now have a friendship with this person from the most unlikely of circumstances. So we want to walk you through a few things to be aware of when you are... Obviously, you can't plan for an unlikely friendship. But if you are looking to build friendships, but you just don't really know how to do it, we're going to walk us through some things to keep in mind. Shall we dive in?
Alrighty.
To Season 2.
Let us do it.
Let's do it. All right. Number 1, be open-minded. Now, this phrase bugs me to no end because it is misused. People think being open-minded means that you have to accept every variation of what people believe to be true.
No.
That is not the case. There's one truth. There's just, you can't argue with truth. When we were at that conference, the Peak Conference, we heard several sermons about how, truth is not about what you think it is. It's about what it is.
Yes.
What it is. And I would highly recommend you guys go back and listen to those if you didn't get a chance to hear them. Oh, we also met someone who is a podcast listener.
Yes.
Thank you so much for mentioning that you are a listener, because shout out Mary from the South. I don't think she probably wants me to say where she's from. So Mary from the South, thank you for being a listener. Anyway, so being open-minded, I think that phrase gets used and abused.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me, I know that I have a tendency, a bad habit, if you will, of drawing conclusions about people. And I'm not the only one in my immediate circle of people in my life who do this, but a bad habit of drawing conclusions about people either based off of the very finite information that I know about them or just the general vibes they give off. That is not being open-minded.
Yeah.
Now, some people take that skill or habit, or they take that bad habit and kind of try to make it into a skill. Say, well, I'm a good judge of character. Yeah. No, that's
discernment.
Different. That's different.
Right.
If you just can look at someone's face and be like, oh, I don't like them, or oh, they just have a bad look about them. That's a bad habit. That's a skill that needs redirecting.
Right.
I particularly find myself judging people or drawing conclusions about people. And there is a phrase that is often thrown around, but it's not really appropriate. So we'll just call it the resting bored face, or the disinterested face.
Resting disinterested face.
Or the mad face.
Yes.
If you want to keep the same acronym, we can call it the resting bored face. But just people who look like they hate everything, and you look at them and you're like, oh my gosh, that person. Okay, I had this exact experience last week. I was working with a group of people, and there was this guy who just looked like he hated everyone. And I was like, I don't even want to talk to him. I don't even want to interact with him because, oh my gosh, he just looks like he hates everyone.
Yeah.
Why? I had to talk to him because of what I was doing that week. And so I tapped him on his shoulder and I was like, hey, a quick question. He turned around with the biggest smile on his face.
Oh, see?
Because it was his resting face. It wasn't his looking at everyone straight up judging them face. I was judging him.
Yeah.
I drew conclusions about him even though I didn't, know anything about him. But he turned around and he was perfectly pleasant. Yeah. So being open-minded for an unlikely friendship is not just saying, oh, I accept you and what you think your truth is, and I just accept everything that you choose to do even if I don't agree with it. That's not being open-minded.
Right.
In this context, being open-minded is approaching new people and experience with curiosity.
Right.
And, not drawing those instantaneous conclusions about them. Right.
And we'll probably talk about this later on in the episode. Even for people who, if we're going beyond the resting bored face, even cultural norms. So once you start talking to them, they're still acting some type of way. Yeah. That's a struggle for me because in my family, I grew up totally opposite, overly nice to everyone. Mm-hmm. And if you're mean, that means we're going to be more nice and bother you. So
kill them with kindness.
That's something I've struggled with, that, people who that's not their norm. I'm like, oh, they must be mean or mad at me, but no.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Right. You could just be coming into a situation and purely have no understanding of it. And then you can use discernment, and you can use your intuition, and you can use your judgment of character. But the thing is to draw a conclusion about someone and say, oh, well, I'm just a good judge of character, therefore I know. Mm-hmm. Looking at them, you know nothing about their character.
Right.
That's what it means to be a judge of character, a judge of their actions, a judge of who they present themselves to be once you know something about them. Not just because they're standing across the room and they look grumpy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not one or the other there. When we were going over this episode, Kayla told me that it was some self-awareness that I recognize that about myself.
It is. Hey, self-awareness is the first step.
It is. And I'm not kidding. I'm not blaming anyone, but I'm just saying that I'm not the only person who does this in my friend group or my family or in my church. But I just got a refreshing smack on the head by I don't know, the Holy Ghost or something when I saw it was particularly that guy. I was like, oh my gosh, he just looks like so unpleasant. I was like, I don't even want to talk to him.
So unpleasant.
Literally tapped him on the shoulder and he was like, oh hey, like how can I help? And I was like,
Aww.
okay, you sweetheart. Not a grump. You look like it still, but you're not. All right. Other places you can find the quote unlikely friendship is exploring new activities.
Yes.
Joining
absolutely.
a club, group activities. Kayla is a Bible quizzing coach.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that when people express interest in joining, you don't just talk about how they're learning scripture, you talk about all the other stuff that goes with it.
Traveling and the connections you make. I have a Bible quizzing friend, and I mean, she's my friend outside of Bible quizzing, but I call her Bible quizzing friend because we connected through Bible quizzing, and we only see each other at tournaments, specifically nationals. And I just connected with her this past week again, and it's like every time we see each other, like we don't run out of things to talk about, and it's not awkward. I love her. She's amazing. She posted a transformation picture from our last year quizzing together in 2019.
I saw that. That was so cute.
Yes. And then we took a picture together this year, and she captioned it, our last year quizzing together in 2019, and this year watching our kids quiz. I was like, she met our quizzers. But it was funny, because then we can take a picture when our actual kids are quizzing, and we can say that again.
Yeah. So in that environment, in that activity, you've got... maybe it's outside of your usual interests, but then you find people, you meet them, and then you end up having prolonged relationships with them. Like Kayla said, it's year after year she's seeing this person and sustaining a relationship with her. That conference that happened in July, Peak, I was just singing at, and the circle of people that I met through that event over the years has expanded my just general circle greatly. I took a skill that I already had, in this case singing and ministry, and applied it to a new environment back in 2013 and ended up meeting so many people from it. I continue to meet new people each year. I think we had 35 new people in the choir, the Peak Choir this year.
This year?
Yeah.
Wow.
We had a lot of vets who couldn't come for one reason or another. A lot of us are just growing up and have other responsibilities.
Right.
But year after year, because I took so it doesn't have to just be a new skill like Bible quizzing, but if you take an old skill, apply it to a new environment.
Yeah.
In my case, now I have 35 new acquaintances, or maybe 30 new acquaintances and 5 new friends. It's just that same and familiar environment was at one time new and unfamiliar, but then has continually refreshed and expanded my circle. That's
awesome. And it can be scary. Like, I grew up as a Bible quizzer. We didn't really have a choice when we were little. It was like homework, chores, Bible quizzing. So I grew up that way. But if I think about it now, like if I were to go set out to join a new group and travel and meet new people, I would be a little bit terrified now at 22.
Intimidating.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So exploring a new activity does not just mean that you have to explore a new hobby. You can take a pre-existing hobby, skill, if you want to volunteer and or whatever, and apply it to a new environment, and you probably more than likely will meet new people that you can try to build a friendship with.
Right.
In a like manner, attending community events, kind of like a new activity, but it's more of the environment we were talking about. You got your local events. First and foremost, if you're not a member of a church, you will find not only fulfillment of your soul there, but there's so many fringe benefits for being a part of a community, especially a wholesome community.
Absolutely.
I didn't really appreciate this until the last few years, probably last 10 years or so, because it was something that I grew up in, Kayla grew up in, and you don't realize what a safety net.
Oh my word, absolutely.
Or I don't know, like the church is, the way God so beautifully designed it was not just fulfillment for your soul in salvation, but the connectivity that the human existence needs. And it struck me again around New Year's, and I think I may have mentioned this last season. We were at a friend's house who was throwing a party, and I was like, you know what? If I didn't have this group of people, what would I be doing right now?
Yeah, on New
Who
Year's
would
Eve.
the people be?
Yeah.
Where would I be?
Right.
What would I be doing? What stupid decisions would I be making?
Absolutely.
But instead, these people, because we have the commonality of the church, I wouldn't know them. I wouldn't know them. I don't work with them. I didn't used to live by them, you know, but then this quote unquote community event church, this community of people gives you so much more than you even realize you need. And like I said, I took that for granted for so many years because I didn't know that was, to me, that was just life. That was like, oh, this is my church family, you know, it's just an extension of my physical family. But so many people are lonely.
Yeah.
I work with people who their hobbies are working extra hours at night because it's just like, oh, it's something that's got to get done. No, I am done the second my contract is up because I got to go something else to do. Either be with my community or support my community, go to choir practice, work for a conference or whatever. And all that comes from the unexpected benefits of being a part of a church.
Right.
And in our case, the body of Christ. So,
yeah.
If you are listening and you don't have a church, first and foremost, like I said, find that for your soul, but then you'll be so surprised by all the fringe benefits that come with it.
Yeah. And on the topic of attending community events, if you are in church and that is your life, it can be hard to step outside of that circle too. And I mean, not to become best friends with everyone in the world, but like for example, I work from home 3 days out of the week, and to be honest, I would love to just be home all day in my pajamas, and I do that some days, but I realized, you know, I have an opportunity. I have a whole day of working remote. I have an opportunity to go connect with people, and I started a while ago taking advantage of that opportunity and not, you know, just staying home, covered in my own home all day. So I started going to coffee shops to work, and it's exposed me to a lot of great people and, you know, people that I can witness to and kind of form friendships with as well.
And in the context of going outside of the church for connectivity, like Kayla said, it's not about just, you know, exposing yourself unduly, but in this instance, you're letting your light shine.
Yeah. Right.
Because for me, I work from home, but it's like work from home. Like I can't.
You're on Zooms all day.
Yeah, I'm on Zoom all day. I can't be in other environments. So when pastor says like, witness to someone this week, I'm like, but I work with my dad in my house, and then I go to Trader Joe's on Saturdays, and then I go to church on Sunday. Like, you know, the opportunity isn't there to let my light shine
right
as much as it should as a believer and as a soul winner. So I love that example that you're maybe not forcing yourself, but you're allowing yourself to be in a different environment.
Yeah.
And when we give these topics headers like community events, it's so easy just to wave it off. Like, okay, I'm not going to the Strauss Festival.
Which I am.
Are you really?
I'm going tomorrow. Yeah.
Oh, is it right now?
It's tomorrow.
Why are you going there?
It's free.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's free. They charge $10 for parking, so I went and got my sister's electric scooter today so I can scooter there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is Brett going?
Yeah.
Wow. I think Carpenter's going to be there.
Ooh.
I think so. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm distracted.
That's a community event.
That's a community event. Anyways, so, like, don't just brush, when they give you that title, just brush it out like, oh, this is a community event. Like, you gotta go to food pantry. No, we're gonna break them down. But, as far as unlikely friendships, that's definitely a place that you can find them. Now, once you get an unlikely friendship, and again, this is not really something you could plan for, but be prepared to communicate effectively about what your expectations are for the friendship. Now, I want to stress, you don't meet someone at a coffee shop, okay, like, all right, my goal here is to not be your best friend, but it's not just to be an acquaintance. So this is exactly what I want from this friendship. That's not what we're saying.
Yeah.
We're saying that if someone is bugging you and blowing up your phone and expecting more of this friendship, then it is okay to set a boundary of like, hey, you know what? I'm really busy this weekend, but let's schedule a time for coffee so we can catch up.
Yeah.
So communicating effectively, they could start off with different expectations. I got into a conversation with someone accidentally. It was not my intention. Someone said, hey, hang out with her for a second while I go do something else. I'll be right back. Got into a conversation with this person who did not stop talking for, I want to say, like 30 minutes.
Oh, my word.
And I was giving very strong vibes of, please stop. Because it was so much deeper than our friendship actually was. Like, I met you the day before. And 2, the environment in which we were in and the time constraints we were in. I will tell you the story after we get done recording. I was like, oh my gosh, 30 minutes. That might be a little conservative, actually. Like, it was non-stop. And it was deep stuff that I'm like, you should go to therapy for.
Not heard this yet.
So that set the tone and not a positive way for me. Because now this person wants to be really good friends. But I'm like, I remember what happened that first time that we accidentally got stuck together.
Yeah.
And now I know how to navigate it because of my age and maturity.
Right.
But if you don't know what you want and you get into a tough situation, like,
right.
communicating and not being a jerk about it, but just saying like, hey, let's schedule a time so that we can trauma dump. Exactly. Jinx. Yeah. Schedule a time for you to trauma dump that's appropriate.
Yeah.
I feel like we talk about communication a lot on this channel, but it's so important.
Yeah.
And I think it's overlooked.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
When you find yourself in new environments, maybe not even new, they could be very familiar environments, but with new people, it's always a good move to try to find common ground. And usually this is going to happen kind of sporadically. It'll be like something that you tag in off of. So like shared interests or values, you're not just going to be like, I like elephants, and they say, I like elephants too. Like, you're going to be talking about a trip in which you saw an elephant, like, oh wow, yeah, I love elephants. Or, you know, that's a silly example, but my point is like, you're not just going to be like, okay, here are all the things I like. Mm-hmm. These are my values in life. Do you have the same values? Okay, great.
Yeah.
It's not how it's going to work. Yeah. So, okay, for example, I had dinner with a well-known pastor and his wife a few weeks ago. They were just super generous and very welcoming to everyone who was there, and invited about 10 of us out to dinner. And Kayla knows this, I really, really do not like group dinners. They're stressful.
Brett doesn't either.
They're messy. You have to find places to sit. You have to split the check. The wait staff is grumpy. You might get stuck next to people you don't want to talk to or that don't know how to talk. You can't hear the good conversation. You're not hanging out with people that you want to.
Right.
It's just chaos, and I don't like it. I don't like it. Well, there's a huge group of us. And the pastor we were with, he's like, oh, let's do the ladies on one end and the gentlemen on the other, which is another thing I absolutely hate, because I'm like, well, what if the guys are having more interesting conversations, which right. is usually what happens. It ends up being the young people who were there sit on the end. I just grab a seat in the middle, and the men go down to the end, and the other ladies kind of filling around me. Well, this grandmother, daughter, and grandson sit across from me. I'd never seen them before in my life. Well, I saw the grandson, but I didn't make the connection. And even in that super chaotic environment of a restaurant on a Sunday night with so many people back there, because even we were like a group of like 10 or 15, and the restaurant was packed with apostolics. So it is like they weren't with us, but they were there, and there was like 50 people in the restaurant, and it was so much. Okay. So even in that chaotic environment, we ended up having like an amazing conversation.
Oh, good.
Where it was revealed that we had so many things in common. just from a gently flowing conversation. We had mutual friends, which started off as saying, oh, my name is Danielle. Oh, my name is, so-and-so. Oh, where are you guys from? Oh, I'm from Sacramento. Oh, we're from where they're from. And I was like, oh, you must know the whatever family. And they're like, oh, they're our best friends. From that moment, we had a mutual connection because we had mutual friends. And then it turned into just general flowing conversations, similar interests, similar backgrounds. They originated from a similar part of the country that we did. It was crazy. It was crazy. It was an unlikely friendship because I had never seen those people. It was a chaotic environment, and I was there with my dad, who was there for someone else. You know what I mean? So like, it was not a planned event. But I'd literally never seen these people before in my life. Yet it was like they'd always kind of been there. They'd always kind of been like a part of it, just in the background. Like it was like a shadow cast by a tree that I didn't know that there was something in the shadow until the paths crossed. And it was really interesting because it was definitely an unlikely friendship.
I love that.
Yeah. Another thing about the people that I was just talking about is that we not only had the same geographical thing, but we had connections all across the country, like including in our own church, people that they knew. So it was just really interesting to see that come to light again. Like, I'm always surprised. I don't know why I keep getting surprised by that kind of stuff happening, because God knows how to order your steps. But once you find common ground, it really sets you off. And so, like, we took a picture together. She sent it to the mutual friends. She gave me her phone number.
She
put me on a group chat with her and those guys, her son and the other people. That. And unlikely as you could get, but common ground.
Love that.
That's where you found it. This is tough, especially in our circle, and I'm going to talk about this specifically in the circle that Kayla and I are part of.
It needs to be talked about.
Is respecting differences.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. I'm not talking about differences of belief and truth and that kind of stuff.
Right.
I'm talking about execution, like your life, the way that you live your life in the same general understanding and belief. There are different sects and variations of it. Yeah. So in the common circle, there's the different variations of life, but you really need to be respectful.
Yeah. And
I told, I don't know, somebody, probably my family, that, and I'm going to use holiness as an example. I fully believe in holiness, every biblical standard, principle, all that stuff.
And how holiness has to do with being and not just physical appearance.
100%.
Yeah.
But I'm going to use that as an example. So, in our circle, in the church, every single person believes that whatever amount of holiness they showcase on the outward, we're using outward holiness as the example, is the exact correct amount. Everyone thinks that, because if they didn't, they would be doing more or less, right? So everyone thinks that their execution of holiness is the direct, exact amount that is acceptable. Again, I'm going to reiterate, because if they did not think that, if they thought, oh, my skirt's too short, well, then they would be wearing a longer skirt.
Yeah. If
they thought, oh, well, that's not necessary, then they would be doing the other thing. So everyone in the circle believes that whatever their execution of outward holiness is the correct amount. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I can see where you're going with that.
Okay. So when it comes to building a friendship with someone, even if they don't execute the holiness the exact same way that you do, that should not be the firmest grounds of not engaging with them and not becoming their friend.
Yes.
Obviously, if they're not living any sort of holiness, well, then you got to guard yourself and be careful.
And you'll see the fruit of that.
You'll absolutely see the fruit of it. People who claim inward holiness without outward holiness,
look at the fruit.
That's a whole other thing. But yeah, basically look at the fruit. So when it comes to respecting differences, and again, I say that this is just in the circle of the church and people who are have this same kind of lifestyle. It does no good to wave off other variations of holiness or other executions of holiness, because it's such a deep topic. It really is. But basically, the bottom line is just love one another. It's
not a reason not to befriend someone.
No, it's not.
It really isn't.
And
unless there's a spirit attached to it, and you can see that.
Yeah. The fruit, like we said, or if there's a danger. Yeah. Or if your pastor tells you not to. Now, if your pastor tells you not to do that, well, then obviously you listen to him and not us. Right. But it's just I think a lot of times it could be your immediate reaction to see someone, and it's like, they do something that I don't. They do something that I don't. Okay, stay away. Well, just be careful. Yes. And if it's something that's going to negatively affect you, then don't be with friends with them. You don't have to. But it doesn't mean that you have to write off people just because their sleeves are 2 inches shorter than yours. Yeah. Right?
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I have some of my closest, best friends that pour into me so much. I work on a team with them, and most of our team have quote unquote lower standards than I do. Like what is like house rules at their church. Right. Basically is what I'm saying. Not lower standards of, life. Yeah. But
it's a different execution of it.
Right. Yeah. And when we're together, we it's not even like a focus of conversation. It's like nothing.
Not even a factor. You don't even think about it.
No.
Yeah. So when it comes to respecting differences, for the unlikely friendship, you're going to lose a lot of potential friendships if you're going up with these giant, imaginary red X's that you're just placing over people based off of their execution of it. Right. There's a few more things that factors that apply to the unlikely friendship. Once you have made your connection with someone, be prepared to learn from them. Yes. Be prepared to learn from each other. Yeah. I have seen people who connect with other people and just fully expect to be the person who sets the standard. And we're going to talk a little bit about, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but they expect that their view on life is going to set the tone for their friendship. No. Your life does not supersede someone else's. This is talking just in general. This is not just talking about one certain circle or anything, but you can learn from other people. So be prepared and be okay with hearing what the other person has to say. Yeah. Right. And in the same way, support each other. Not just in like actual achievement or whatever, but that emotional support. Like the person who talked to me for 30 minutes straight. In that moment, I didn't even know how to support her. Mm-mm. I didn't know what to do. Because I'm like, it was so unexpected. And I was like, I am not the right person for this. We are not at the right stage of a relationship to do this. So I'm like, I don't even know how to support you. Yeah. Now I probably would. We're a few years past that. But I'm like.
Oftentimes people just want a listening ear too. She might have just wanted to trauma them.
But it was so unexpected.
Inappropriate. Yeah.
And inappropriate and unexpected that I was like, how can I get away? Isn't that so weird?
Oh, so funny.
In the same vein of, and this is where I was getting ahead of myself, of learning from each other, it is okay to want to be a role model for someone. Yeah. I'm not saying that you, when I say learn from each other, your life is going to supersede. I'm not saying that it can't set an example and be a model, but you can be a role model. Lead by example. Peers. Exactly. Yeah. By fostering and celebrating the unlikely friendships, but setting the tone for what your friendship's going to be. Danielle, that goes against what you said before. No, it doesn't, because if you've noticed, as we talked about it, we've been progressing through the stages of friendship. So you sit down to someone at the table, you don't think to yourself, okay, just met this person, going to be a role model in their life. All right, let's dive in. No. Yeah. Once you have the unlikely friendship, you're moving into like the friendship stage or whatever, prepare to be a role model, because some people come from backgrounds where they're not developed by leaders, by parents, but they're rather managed as individuals. And so they can see you and say, wow, I wish I could be like that person. Mm-hmm. Now I really am getting ahead of myself. Okay, I'm just going to smush all these together. So be a role model, but share your story.
Yeah.
Okay. Inspire others by sharing your experiences and the benefits of your life.
Right. Exactly.
People, they don't look at me and see the hurdles that I've been through. Exactly. They don't see what I've overcome in my life. They don't see the experiences that I've had. They just see where I am and think, oh, wow, she's from that church, so she gets to sing up there. Mm. Or he does this, so therefore he gets to do that. Mm. No, share your story. Yeah. Because sharing your journey can make people realize that they can become who God has called them to be despite setbacks and despite challenging environments.
And vulnerability brings connectivity in general.
Absolutely.
And it makes everyone a lot less... You don't assume things about people when they are vulnerable with you and when you're vulnerable with them. And everyone just becomes a lot less scary and, like, we all become more human. Alike and human.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, you know, obviously in my flesh, I would love for people to look at me and just be like, wow, she has it all together. And, you know, she doesn't have to worry about anything. And she just got where she is because it was just a smooth ride. Obviously, everyone wants to be seen as, like, someone who's got it all together. But by sharing my story, by setting an example, by being a role model to someone else, I could take someone who had similar beginnings to me and help them understand that they can get to where I am. Now, I just use singing as an example because it's freshest in my mind, and in our circle, that's really an access ladder to certain places. So let's work backwards. In July, I sang for the Peak Conference. It's 5,000 people. It seems like it's like it is an honor. I don't want to say that it's not. It's a lot of work, and I've been doing it for, I think this was my 9th or 10th year. So when people see that, they're like, oh, she sings at Peak. Okay, well, I also sing at my church. Well, your church is so big, you get to sing at your platform at church. Okay, well, when I was 16, I had to audition for Frontline and get on there. And then before that, I was singing in a youth choir at a smaller church in Michigan. And before that, I was singing in a kids choir where I got my first solo at 9 or whatever. And so, and again, I'm just using singing as an example because it's fresh. So, yeah, I go to a big church and that's where opportunities come from. But I didn't start singing the second I got to that church. Mm-hmm. I worked on the skill and developed and just fell in love with worship far before I ever got to a platform. And that was developed in me from my family. But if someone who, I had someone who come up to me like, can you please get me the Peak Choir? And I'm like, first of all, I don't even know you. What is your name again? But I was like, it's not just, I don't just hand out scholarship opportunities to the Peak Choir, you know? And so for people who are like, wow, I wish I could be up there. I wish I could do that. I wish I could sing on Frontline or whatever. By sharing my story of where I started, people can get like, oh, I could do that.
Yeah.
I love to worship. That's really all you need to do.
Yeah.
Is love to worship and develop your skill and realize that you're doing it for God, not for anybody else. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, it doesn't have to be like who you know kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So setting an example, sharing your story can help people understand that they can become more than what they previously expected of their lives. Mm-hmm. Wrapping up today, this season 2, episode 1, we're going to talk about 2 quick things. Seek growth opportunities in your friendship.
Yeah.
Use the friendships to grow personally. And when I say use, I don't mean like use and abuse, but I mean take advantage of those opportunities.
Yeah.
To grow and become more empathetic and understanding. Mm-hmm. And every person that you meet is probably going to teach you something.
Right.
Either negative or positive. So harness those.
Right. It doesn't matter who it is. Any relationship you form, and I learned this from my sister, that you should approach with the attitude of teach me. And for some people that may take a lot of humbling.
Yeah.
But I went on a road trip the past couple weeks with my quizzers, and they're 16 and 17. They're so much fun. Obviously, I'm older, but I can honestly say that when you approach conversations with the attitude of teach me, you learn from each other and you pour into each other. It doesn't matter how old you are.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was too prideful and too like, oh, well, I'm just the mentor, then there were some things that I would have never learned.
Yeah.
And opportunities, like you said, to be empathetic. Opportunities arose the past couple weeks just learning about different backgrounds and things that people go through. And, well, how do you like when I say this to you? Oh, you don't like that I say that to you. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. That takes some humbling too.
Yeah, and if you're approaching a relationship saying, well, okay, I'm going to teach them and I'm going to show them how to be... No. You're going to be so... You're going to have no respect. No one's going to respect you. There's so many people who... I'm thinking of a person right now who is not a highly respected individual because of how they approach other people and how they just say... They give off an air of knowing everything, and so you don't even want to say anything to them because they will cut you off and say exactly what that means to them or what their version of it was, and they're constantly coming at it from I'm going to tell you something. Literally every interaction I've had with this person is I'm going to tell you something and you're going to hear what I have to say and this is how it works for me. Okay, well, now no one respects you, so congratulations. So,
on that note.
Yeah, but it's true. So, okay. And the last thing I want to say is celebrate the journey of friendship. Those early years of developing a friendship can be tough, especially when you don't really know each other, when you're starting off as acquaintances because of time and distance. Remember, space and time are what creates the gaps on the friendship pyramid. So there's people that I've sang with for those 10 years that I still would count acquaintances because we have the space and the time between us or the desire, time spent and desire to spend time spent. That's really what it is. Well, we don't have the desire to spend time with each other, or just circumstance won't allow it. So in the instance when you are growing a friendship and when you are developing that relationship, celebrate the entire journey. Appreciate the fact those early years when you're still learning about each other, and don't just rush to the 10-15 year mark where you feel like you know everybody or know everything about each other, because the art of learning about each other can be really beautiful.
Yes.
So recognize the value of a unique friendship and be on the lookout for those unlikely friendships.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. They're not going to come waving a flag in your face and say, I'm here. So just be prepared to engage with whoever comes across your path.
Right. You've got to set out to connect with people too. Yeah. I was just telling my husband the other day that for years I've kind of approached connecting in fellowship with an attitude of like, well, I'm fulfilled in my friendships and I've got a husband, I have sisters, I have my sisters-in-laws, like I have a couple best friends, and like I'm super fulfilled. Yeah. And I'm not like going to this conference because I need friends and I'm desperate for friendships. But, I had to have like a mindset shift lately that's not the point. Oftentimes the point of fellowship is connecting. So I'm thinking of someone right now I met at Peak, talked to her for a long time, and every single person has something different to teach you, everyone. And like I loved that I made that connection, and I don't see myself trying to maintain that connection with texting and FaceTiming, because that's just not me at all.
Yeah.
I don't do that. But I mean, it was still like, I didn't necessarily need more friends, but maybe I needed that connection because I needed to learn something from her.
Yeah, and also I've been trying to remind myself, and now I do not intend for this to sound like it's about to come out, but I also want to make myself available for other people to connect with.
Yeah.
Not because of anything that I've done, but because other people might need a connection.
Yes.
And that's literally what I've made my business is Friendeavor, is to be a friend, is to connect people. Maybe not everyone has to be a friend with me, but maybe I can help orchestrate a friendship somewhere else. And so that's why I encourage you guys, like, if you have even a fleeting question about friendship, email us, because it might be something that either we can help with or we've never thought about and we'd love to discuss it. So we're hoping this season that, you guys trust us enough after one season under our belts that you would reach out.
Yes, absolutely.
Or if you even just want to chat, like that person at Peak who told us she listened to the podcast, that made my day. Probably my week. I ran over to Kayla and I was like, listen, there's a girl over there. And then I was like, go talk to her. And she was gone by the time Kayla got over there.
I know, it was so sad.
But it was just really sweet to hear because, I mean, that's, to know that there are ears at the other end of this microphone is nice to know.
Yes. And even if you don't have a question about friendship, even if you had feedback for us.
Yeah.
Like, I wish you guys would cover this more, or I don't really like the way you covered this. Yeah. You know? We'll take it.
Yeah, and an alternative perspective.
Yeah.
Because we're just two minds and we're not going to think of every angle of everything. Yeah. So if we have enough of those types of correspondences, then we'll do another episode where we're recapping the things that we've already talked about, say in like the last 5 episodes, and say, okay, this person thought of it from a different angle.
Yeah. And
tackle it. Like, we're not set to the fact of, okay, we're going to just say what we have to say. No, if you want to have a conversation with us, we are totally down to hear what you want to talk about. Our OG listeners will remember that we were planning to do a Would You Rather at the end of every episode last year, and then just, life got away from us and we kind of forgot about it.
Well, I got fired from making them.
And then, I absolutely banned Kayla, said, you will never do this on this show. So we are going to try to bring that back, not Kayla making them, because none of us want to go and cry under a bed. But if we can ask normal ones, Kayla, I will ask you one.
Okay, here we go.
Would you rather have a personal maid or like a butler or a private chef?
Oh.
And this is not, you cannot consider the fact that Brett does most of the cooking.
You know what? That was what I was going to say. Yeah. Okay.
It needs to be like
only me, only based on what I
based off of what you.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh man.
I already have my answer.
I'm going to have to go with the maid.
Yeah.
Less time cleaning for me. So that's time. Time is money. Mm-hmm. And I can spend that money on food.
Okay. There you go. So, like, specifically for, like, cleaning or, like, other duties. Because I said, like, maid or butler. I guess it could be, like, all rolled into one.
I don't know, like, traditionally what those duties are. But I know it's, like,
I think a maid is typically, like, a housekeeper kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
For me, that is also my choice. I still have a pile. It's clean, but I have a pile of laundry on my bed from Peak that I would love for someone else to put away from me. And I also love cooking.
You are your own private chef.
I am my own private chef.
She made Greek food tonight, you guys. So I only had a bite because I had dinner elsewhere, but it was so good.
And you could have eaten here too.
I could have.
Yeah. Man, that was really good, huh?
Yeah. She sent us a video, and she had, I don't know if this is like common knowledge, but it's called a spit. And it's like the meat is like on a stick, and you cut it off the stick. It's so good. 10
out of 10 would recommend that style of cooking. It was bomb diggity. All right, guys, coming up this season, we have lots of fun topics and not fun topics, because you can't just have rainbows and sparkles all the time. Sometimes a thunderstorm rolls in, and you need to talk about it and know how to deal with it. So this season, we hope it is just as good and included like 10 times better than last season. And you can help us by that. Emailing us ideas of what you want to talk about. If you have someone that you'd like to hear be interviewed, we could try to reach out to them, see if they're interested in being interviewed. But what would really help us the most is by sharing the podcast.
Yes.
Word of mouth is so powerful. And if this is something that you enjoy, if you want to share it on your story or text it to a friend or like it on Apple Music or Apple Podcasts or Spotify, it would really help. Leave us a review.
Yeah, and we love knowing that it's impactful, even if like one episode impacts one person. It just means the world to us.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll like go look at the back end. It's like, oh, it's only got this many plays, but we'll have a DM from someone. And by the way, you guys, I'm sorry if we take forever to reply to DMs. Sometimes it goes to the requests.
The requests, yeah.
And it doesn't have the like parentheses with the 1. Like it doesn't notify us.
I opened it the other day and there was like 5 and I was like, oh my gosh.
It doesn't notify
hidden requests.
Yeah.
Is there a setting for that?
you can manage word preferences. But yeah. So I'm sorry, but when we do see them, it's just so wonderful, and people will say, "Oh, this episode impacted me," and it's like, "Whoa!"
And like, the email friendavorpodcast@gmail.com comes directly to my phone, so I won't miss that.
Yes.
So if you have a note or a thought or a complaint or something, you can always email it there, and I will get it directly on my phone. Yeah. But we're so thrilled to be back recording, and we hope that you are looking forward to having an amazing fall.
Yes.
And we're just thrilled. So thank you so much for stopping by this week and listening to Friendeavor the podcast. We will see you next week.
See you next week.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Friendeavor the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you enjoyed today's content, leave a review and share with a friend. You can find the show notes on our website, www.friendeavor.net, and in the description of this episode.
Friendship is a journey. It's an endeavor. We'll see you next time on Friendeavor.